After my family said Christmas was no place for losers, I cut off my brother's money lifeline, and now his entire world is imploding fast. Hey Reddit. This happened on Christmas last year, and honestly, not so long ago, this story had a closure. I, 33 male, had the whole thing planned out. Gifts wrapped, playlist ready, all that festive crap. I was actually excited for once, because I thought, hey, maybe this year won't be a disaster. I pulled up to my brother's house around noon. Now I see why Christmas was hosted at his house. My car packed with gifts I spent weeks picking out. I got stuff for Mom, Dad, Brad, my brother, his wife Emma, and their kids. I even went overboard with extra presents for the kids because, they're just kids. They shouldn't have to deal with adult drama. Turns out I wasted my time. I knocked on the door, juggling 2 big-ass gift bags, and waited. Emma opened it, but instead of the usual warm, "Hey, come in," she gave me this weird, uncomfortable look. Before I could even say Merry Christmas, Brad pushed past her, leaning on the doorframe with a smug grin. "You're not welcome here, Luke," he said. I blinked, thinking I misheard him. "What? You heard me," he said, folding his arms. "This isn't a place for selfish people who only think about themselves. You're such a loser." Now I'm standing there, freezing my ass off with gift bags cutting into my hands. And this is what I get. I looked at my mom for backup, but she just avoided eye contact. Dad was in the background, pretending to mess with something on the kitchen counter like he didn't know what was going on. I should have seen that as a red flag, but I was too stunned. "What the hell are you talking about?" I finally asked Brad. "You're too busy with your new apartment and living your little life to care about the rest of us," he said. "You're not pulling your weight anymore, and we're all sick of it." I was speechless. Not pulling my weight? Are you kidding me? I've been bailing Brad out of his messes for years. I paid for his rent when he almost got evicted. I covered his kids' school fees. Hell, I even helped with their damn car payments once. But now I'm selfish because I bought myself a place to live? Make it make sense. And the worst part? My parents just stood there. Mom looked like she wanted to say something but didn't, and Dad wouldn't even look at me. Brad, meanwhile, was eating this up, standing there with that smug look like he was the king of the damn house. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to beg to be let into Brad's house. Screw that. I dropped the bags right there on the porch, looked Brad dead in the eye, and said, "You know what? Fine. Enjoy your Christmas. Don't expect to hear from me again." Then I turned around, got in my car, and drove off. No yelling, no arguing, just done. But as I drove home, the anger started bubbling up. Not just at Brad, he's always been an entitled jerk, but at my parents, too. They stood there and let him treat me like garbage. They didn't defend me. Hell, they didn't even question him. It was like they'd already decided I was the bad guy. When I got home, I sat in the car for a while, just staring at the dashboard. The bags of gifts were still in the back seat, and seeing them made me even angrier. I spent weeks picking out thoughtful, personal gifts for each of them, and for what? To be told I'm not welcome because I dared to prioritize myself for once. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't new. Brad had always been the golden boy. He could screw up, fail, or flat out mooch, and my parents would bend over backward to excuse him. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the responsible one, the successful one. And I didn't mind helping at first. I love my nieces and nephews, and I wanted to make sure they had what they needed. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about helping and started being about expectations. Like because I helped once, I was now obligated to do it forever. And buying an apartment? Apparently that was my crime. Never mind that I worked my ass off to save up for it while still supporting Brad's family. Never mind that it's a 1-bedroom in a not great part of town because it's all I could afford. To them, it's proof that I'm selfish. By the time I got inside, I was seething. I grabbed a drink, sat on the couch, and thought about how to handle this. A part of me wanted to text my mom and demand an explanation. Another part wanted to drive back and shove the gifts down Brad's throat. But mostly, I just felt done, like I'd reached my limit with all of them. I spent Christmas alone that year, and, yeah, it sucked at first. I tried to distract myself with movies and takeout, but it wasn't the same. Still, by the end of the night, I felt okay. Better even. For the first time in years, I wasn't stressing about Brad's bills or trying to keep my parents happy. I was just me. And you know what? That felt like a gift in itself. 2 days after Christmas, I was just starting to enjoy the peace and quiet. No texts from Brad, no guilt-tripping calls from Mom, no weird passive-aggressive messages from Emma. It was like I'd been given a break from a toxic job I didn't even know I'd signed up for. Then my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "We need to talk. Please meet us." I stared at it for a while. A part of me wanted to delete it and keep going with my new stress-free life, but another part, maybe the part that still wanted answers, decided to see what they had to say. So I agreed to meet them at a local diner. I showed up late on purpose. If they wanted to talk to me so badly, they could wait a little. When I got there, Mom was already sitting at a booth with Dad, both of them looking tense. The second I slid into the seat across from them, Mom started. "We didn't mean for things to get so out of hand," she said. Her voice soft like that would magically make everything better. "Brad was just emotional." I raised an eyebrow. "Emotional? Is that what you call kicking me out of Christmas?" Dad sighed. Rubbing his temple like this was exhausting for him. "Look, Luke, we didn't agree with everything Brad said, but you let him say it," I cut in. "You didn't stop him. You didn't defend me. You just stood there." That shut them up for a second. Mom fiddled with her coffee mug, while Dad looked out the window like he was hoping a tornado would sweep him away. Finally, Mom said, "It's not that simple." "Really?" I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Explain it to me then. Make it simple." Mom took a deep breath like she was trying to gear up for a tough conversation. "It's just you've changed, Luke. You bought that apartment, and it's like your priorities shifted. You used to be so supportive of the family, always helping out when Brad needed it, but now," she trailed off, not finishing the sentence, "but I got the point." "But now what?" I pressed. "I'm selfish because I finally did something for myself, because I stopped handing over money every time Brad screws up." Mom winced. "It's not about the money." "It's always about the money," I shot back. "Brad's the one who made it about that. I've been helping him for years, and suddenly I'm the bad guy because I decided to keep some of my paycheck? Give me a break." Dad finally spoke up, his tone annoyingly calm like he was trying to mediate. "We're not saying you're a bad guy, Luke, but Brad's had a rough couple of years. You know how hard it's been for him to keep a job." "Yeah, because he doesn't try to keep one," I snapped. "He hops from gig to gig, blows through whatever money he makes, and then comes crying to me. And you guys just let it happen." "That's not fair," Mom said, defensive now. "He's doing his best. He's got a family to take care of." "And whose fault is that?" I countered. "Not mine. He chose to have kids. He chose to get married. But somehow I'm the one paying for it." Mom's face flushed, and I could tell she was getting upset. "Families help each other, Luke. That's what we do." "No, that's what I do," I corrected her. "All I've ever done is help. I've bailed him out of more problems than I can count, and you've stood by and let him use me. Now you're mad because I finally said no?" "We're not mad," Dad said, but I could hear the edge in his voice. "We're disappointed. You've always been the responsible one, Luke. We thought you'd understand. Brad needs support right now." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Support? He needs a reality check. You think I don't notice how you guys treat him like he's a saint while I'm just the wallet? You didn't even question him when he kicked me out of Christmas. You just went along with it. Mom started to say something, but I wasn't done. "And what about my apartment? Why is that such a big deal? I bought a place to live. Big whoop. It's not like I bought a mansion or something, but suddenly, I'm selfish because I spent my money on myself?" Mom sighed heavily, looking more annoyed than apologetic. "It's not about the apartment itself. It's about what it represents. You've always been there for us, for Brad, but now it feels like you're pulling away." I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "You know what? Maybe I am pulling away. Maybe I'm sick of being treated like I owe everyone something. I worked hard for that apartment. I earned it, and I'm not going to apologize for wanting something for myself." Dad tried to play peacemaker again. "We're not asking you to apologize, Luke. We just want you to understand that Brad's family is struggling, and they need your help." "No, they need your help," I shot back. "I've done more than enough for them. If you're so worried about Brad, you help him. I'm out." Mom's expression hardened, like she was finally tired of arguing. "Fine," she said quietly, "if that's how you feel." "It is," I said, standing up, "and I'm done feeling guilty about it. Enjoy your golden child." I tossed a few bucks on the table to cover my coffee and walked out without looking back. I didn't care if they called after me. I didn't care if they sat there stewing. I was done. After that talk with my parents, I was completely done. Like there wasn't even a shred of doubt left. It's one thing to feel unappreciated. It's another to have your entire family gaslight you into thinking you're the problem. The way they kept twisting everything to make Brad look like the victim? It was maddening. I didn't even need to think about it anymore. I decided then and there that I wasn't just stepping back. I was cutting ties completely. That night, I sat down with my phone and wrote out a text. It wasn't long or emotional, just straight to the point. I'm done. Don't ask me for anything ever again. Then I hit send to the group chat with my parents, Brad and Emma, and immediately blocked all of them. I won't lie. It felt weird at first. Cutting off your family isn't exactly something you prepare for. There's this lingering voice in the back of your head that keeps asking, am I overreacting? Should I try harder to fix things? But every time I started second-guessing myself, I'd remember Christmas. I'd think about Brad standing there with that smug look, my parents just silently agreeing with him, and all the crap they said during that diner talk. That shut the doubts up real quick. The first couple of days were quiet, which I was grateful for. No calls, no texts, no drama. For the first time in forever, I didn't have to worry about anyone dumping their problems on me. It was like I was finally getting my own life back. But of course, it didn't last. About a week later, I started hearing from mutual friends. Apparently, my parents were telling people I'd abandoned the family. They made it sound like I'd turned my back on them for no reason, like I was some heartless jerk who decided I was too good for them. Brad, of course, was leading the charge, playing the victim like he was auditioning for an Oscar. Can you believe Luke just walked away from his family, they'd say. After everything we've been through together, it's like he doesn't even care about us. Hearing that pissed me off, but it didn't surprise me. Brad's always been great at spinning stories to make himself look like the hero, or in this case, the poor, misunderstood brother. What did surprise me was how quickly some people bought into it. A couple of friends reached out, basically asking what the hell was going on. Hey man, one of them, Jared, texted me. Your parents said you're not talking to them anymore. Something about you being upset over Christmas. What's up with that? I thought about ignoring it, but I figured I might as well set the record straight for the people who actually cared enough to ask. I called Jared back and explained the whole thing. Not just Christmas, but the years of being used, the constant guilt trips, the way my family always put Brad on a pedestal while treating me like an ATM. Dude, Jared said when I finished, that's messed up. I had no idea it was like that. Yeah, well, I said, trying to play it off. I guess I just finally hit my limit. Can't blame you, he said. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. That conversation made me feel a little better, like maybe I wasn't the crazy one after all. But for every Jared, there were at least 2 other people who bought into my parents' sob story. I started seeing vague, passive-aggressive messages on Facebook from some of my extended family members. Stuff like family should always come first, no matter what. Some people need to remember that. It was so obvious who they were talking about that it almost made me laugh. I thought about responding, maybe calling them out for not knowing the full story. But then I realized I didn't owe them anything. Let them believe whatever they wanted. At the end of the day, I wasn't going to waste my energy defending myself to people who never cared enough to ask for my side. Still, the whole thing got me thinking about how easy it had been for my family to turn on me. It wasn't like I'd been a bad son or a bad brother. If anything, I'd gone above and beyond for them. And yet, the second I decided to treat myself with the bare minimum, I was suddenly the villain. It's crazy how quickly people show their true colors when you stop giving them what they want. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the idea of family. There were moments when I'd see something funny or hear some news and instinctively think, oh, I should tell Mom about this, only to remember that I wasn't talking to her anymore. It's not like I was some cold-hearted robot who didn't care, but I knew going back would just drag me into the same old cycle, and I wasn't willing to do that. What made it even harder was that I genuinely liked Emma and the kids. Emma had always been nice to me, and the kids were innocent in all of this. But at the same time, I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine just because of them. If Brad and my parents weren't willing to treat me with basic respect, there wasn't much point in sticking around. After a while, the noise started dying down. The Facebook messages stopped, the mutual friends stopped bringing it up, and I stopped hearing about what my family was saying behind my back. It was like they'd finally accepted that I wasn't coming back, which was a relief. A couple of weeks went by, and honestly, I thought I'd heard the last of my family drama. Cutting ties with them brought me the peace I desperately needed. I wasn't waking up to guilt-tripping texts from Mom. I wasn't dealing with Brad's endless demands, and I wasn't carrying the weight of everyone else's problems. For the first time in forever, I felt free. One random Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I just let it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Hello? I said. Is this Luke? A serious voice on the other end asked. Yeah. Who's this? This is Brian, he said. I'm a lawyer representing Emma. Do you have a moment to discuss some legal matters involving your family? At first, I thought it was some kind of scam. Why would Emma need a lawyer, and what the hell did it have to do with me? Yeah, sure, I said cautiously. What's going on? There was a brief pause before he dropped it. Emma has reason to believe that Brad has been engaging in illegal activities, and your financial transactions with him might be relevant to an ongoing investigation. I froze. Wait, what? What investigation? I haven't talked to Brad in weeks. I understand, Brian said, his tone calm and professional. But Emma recently discovered some alarming information. It appears that Brad has been using money from family members, including you, to fund illegal purchases and activities. We're still piecing everything together, but I thought you should know. My stomach dropped. Illegal activities? Like what? Brian hesitated for a moment before answering. We believe Brad has been purchasing stolen goods and reselling them. Electronics, car parts, that sort of thing. There's also evidence that he may have used the funds for some questionable online transactions. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, Brad was always a mess financially, but this was a whole new level. Are you telling me I'm connected to this? I asked, feeling my chest tighten. Well, we've found records of several large transfers from your account to Brad's over the years, Brian explained. If investigators come across this, they may have questions about whether you were aware of how that money was being used. I wasn't, I said, probably louder than I meant to. I thought I was helping him with bills, rent, stuff for the kids. I had no idea he was doing anything illegal. Brian seemed unfazed by my outburst. That's why I'm reaching out. Emma wanted to make sure you were informed in case this becomes a larger legal issue. She's already provided us with evidence, including Brad's financial records, text messages, and some receipts. It's clear she had no knowledge of this either. Does she think I'm involved? I asked, my voice tight. Brian said quickly. Emma doesn't believe you had anything to do with this. She knows you were trying to help. But she thought you deserved to know what's going on, especially since your name might come up during the investigation. For a moment, I couldn't even process it. I just sat there, staring at my computer screen while my mind raced. Stolen goods? Online scams? And Brad had been using my money to fund it. I finally managed to ask, what happens now? Am I in trouble? Brian's tone was reassuring. At this point, you're not under investigation. But if you're contacted by law enforcement, I recommend being transparent about your interactions with Brad. We're working with Emma to protect her and the children, and we're confident that your role was purely supportive. You weren't complicit in any of this. Great, I muttered sarcastically. So I've been played, and I might get dragged into his mess. Awesome. Brian didn't say much to that, just told me he'd keep me updated if anything new came up. After we hung up, I sat there in silence for a while, trying to wrap my head around everything. I thought back to all the times Brad had come to me for help. The emergencies he needed money for, the rent he couldn't pay, the daycare fees, the utility bills. Was any of it even real, or had he just been stringing me along the whole time? And Emma? God, I felt bad for her. She'd always been so quiet, so willing to go along with whatever Brad wanted. I couldn't imagine what it must have been like for her to find out her husband was doing this crap behind her back. And the kids? They didn't deserve any of this. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, not just at Brad but at myself too. I'd let him take advantage of me for years because I didn't want to rock the boat. I kept telling myself I was helping the family, that it was the right thing to do, but all I'd done was enable him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. What if the cops showed up at my door? What if Brad somehow dragged me into this even though I had nothing to do with it? The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache and a sense of resolve. I wasn't going to let Brad screw me over any more than he already had. I called Brian back and asked him to send me copies of whatever evidence Emma had. If I was going to be tied to this mess, I wanted to know exactly what I was dealing with. When the documents arrived, I was furious all over again. There it was, in black and white, bank statements, screenshots of shady transactions, even receipts for stolen items. And then there were my transfers, right there alongside them, making it look like I'd been funding his little side hustle. I called Brian again. I want to make this clear, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I had no idea he was doing this. I thought I was helping him with bills and groceries. If anyone comes asking, that's the truth. Brian assured me he understood, but it didn't do much to calm my nerves. I spent the rest of the day pacing around my apartment, alternating between anger and panic. I couldn't believe it had come to this. Brad had always been a screw-up, but this was next level. And the worst part? He probably didn't even feel bad about it. I decided right then that if anyone came knocking, I wouldn't protect him. Not anymore. He made his bed and now he could lie in it. It didn't take long for Brad to make his next move, because of course he couldn't just let things go. One morning, a few days after I'd spoken to Emma's lawyer, I was in the middle of my work-from-home routine when someone started banging on my front door. Not knocking, banging. I already had a pretty good guess who it was. Sure enough, when I opened the door, there was Brad, looking like absolute hell. He pushed past me into the apartment before I could even say anything. "Brad, what the hell are you doing?" I asked, slamming the door shut behind him. "We need to talk," he said, pacing like a caged animal. "No, we don't," I said. "Whatever mess you're in, I'm not part of it anymore." He stopped pacing and turned to me, his face a mix of anger and desperation. "Emma's leaving me," he said, like it was somehow my fault. "Yeah, I know," I said, crossing my arms, "and good for her." That hit a nerve. His face went red, and he clenched his fists like he was ready to start throwing punches. "What the hell is your problem, Luke? She's my wife. She's supposed to stand by me." I let out a bitter laugh. "Stand by you while you're buying stolen crap and dragging her and the kids into your mess? Yeah, no, I think she's making the right call." Brad's jaw tightened. "She's been talking to you, hasn't she? Filling your head with lies." I rolled my eyes. "Brad, she didn't have to tell me anything. Your own actions are screwing you over. You can't blame me or Emma for that." He started pacing again, running his hands through his hair. "You don't get it, man. She's talking about lawyers and custody and all this legal crap. And now I've got cops sniffing around because of some stupid mix-up with a few transactions." "Mix-up?" I interrupted. "You mean the illegal crap you've been doing for who knows how long?" "That's not a mix-up, Brad. That's you being a selfish idiot. Now it's clear who the loser is." He glared at me, but I could see the fear behind his anger. "You don't know what it's like, Luke, trying to keep a family together, trying to make ends meet." "Don't even start," I cut him off. "I've been helping you make ends meet for years. I've done everything I could to make sure your family was taken care of, and this is what you did with it? So don't stand there and act like I'm the one who doesn't get it." For a moment, Brad looked like he was going to argue, but then he slumped into one of my kitchen chairs, his head in his hands. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad," he muttered. I thought I could fix everything." "Fix everything?" I said, incredulous. "You've made it worse for everyone. Emma's leaving, the cops are involved, and you've probably burned every bridge you had. And for what? A quick buck?" He didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at the table like it held the answers to all his problems. Finally, he said, "You're my brother, Luke. Can't you help me one last time?" I laughed, and not in a nice way. "One last time? You've been saying that for years, Brad. Every time you screw up, it's just one last time. Well, guess what? This time I'm done. You're on your own." He looked up at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You don't mean that." "Oh, I do," I said firmly. "I meant it when I told you and everyone else I was done. I've spent years cleaning up your messes, and all it's gotten me is a front row seat to this train wreck. So no, I'm not helping you. Not with this, not ever again." Brad jumped to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Fine," he snapped. "If you want to abandon your own family, go ahead. But don't come crying to me when you need something." I raised an eyebrow. "When have I ever needed anything from you? Seriously, name one time." He opened his mouth like he had a response ready, but nothing came out. After a few seconds, he just stormed past me to the door. "Screw you, Luke," he said over his shoulder before slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle. My heart was racing, and my hands were shaking a little, but I didn't feel bad. If anything, I felt relieved. Brad could try to guilt-trip me all he wanted, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. That evening, I sat down and thought about everything he'd said. The whole "you're my brother" argument kept replaying in my head, but it didn't hit the way it used to. I used to feel obligated to help him because he was family. I'd tell myself it was my duty, that I couldn't just let him fail. But now I realized that being family didn't mean letting someone walk all over you. Brad had made his choices. He chose to lie, to get involved in illegal crap, and now he was dealing with the consequences. It wasn't my job to fix his life. It never was. The next day, I got a text from Emma. "Did Brad come by? He's been acting erratic, and I'm worried about what he might do." I told her about the visit, sparing her the more colorful details, and reassured her that I wasn't letting him drag me back into his mess. She thanked me and said she was taking steps to protect herself and the kids. Hearing that made me feel better. At least someone was making smart decisions in all of this. Brad, on the other hand, was spiraling, and there wasn't much anyone could do about it, least of all me. When I got a text from Emma a couple of weeks later, I wasn't totally shocked. It was a simple message: "Hey, can we talk? I need your help." At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get involved. I mean, I'd finally managed to cut Brad off, and even though Emma and I had always gotten along, she was still part of that mess. But something about her tone, or maybe just the fact that I still felt bad for her and the kids, made me agree to meet her. We met at a quiet coffee shop on a weekday afternoon. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days, but there was a determination in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. It was like she'd reached her own breaking point and wasn't going to back down this time. "I'm leaving him," she said as soon as we sat down. No preamble, no small talk, just straight to the point. "Good," I said, nodding. "It's about time." She gave a weak smile, like she appreciated the support but wasn't quite ready to celebrate yet. "I've been thinking about it for a while, but after everything that's come out, I can't stay anymore. Not for him, not for the kids. It's just too much." I didn't blame her. Staying with him would have been insane. "So what's the plan?" I asked. She hesitated, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I found a new place," she said finally. "It's small, but it's in a good neighborhood with decent schools. The kids deserve a fresh start away from all of this." But I could already see where this was going. "But you need help to make it happen," I said. She nodded, looking embarrassed. "I hate to ask, Luke, especially after everything you've been through, but I'm stretched so thin right now. Between lawyers, moving expenses, and making sure the kids are okay, I don't have a lot of options." I leaned back in my chair, letting out a long breath. Part of me wanted to say no. I mean, wasn't this exactly what I'd been trying to avoid, being dragged back into their drama? But then I thought about her kids. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't deserve to grow up in a household where their dad was constantly screwing up and their mom was stuck cleaning up the mess. "All right," I said finally. "I'll help. But just this once, and only for you and the kids. Brad's on his own." Emma's eyes filled with tears, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "Thank you, Luke. You don't know what this means to me." We spent the next hour going over the details. She needed money for a deposit on the new place and some basic necessities to get started. I transferred her the money that night, and for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like I was being used. This wasn't Brad guilting me into fixing his problems or my parents trying to make me feel like I owed them something. This was about helping someone who genuinely needed it and who was doing the right thing for her kids. A few days later, Emma sent me a text. "We're leaving today. Thank you for everything." We talked for a little while, mostly about her plans and how the kids were adjusting. She mentioned that she was looking for a better job and was working with her lawyer to finalize the separation. It sounded like she had a long road ahead, but at least she was on the right track. I still felt a little weird about helping her after cutting off the rest of the family, but I didn't regret it. Emma wasn't the problem, and neither were the kids. They were just collateral damage in Brad's never-ending cycle of chaos. It didn't happen overnight, but eventually Brad's actions caught up with him. I found out through Emma. She'd been keeping me updated here and there, mostly because of the kids. Apparently, the investigation into Brad's stolen goods operation had gained serious traction. By the time the police had everything pieced together, they were charging him with multiple counts of possession and distribution of stolen property. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. Brad had been pushing his luck for years, and it was only a matter of time before the house of cards came tumbling down. What did surprise me, though, was the fact that my name came up during the investigation, not because I was involved, but because of all the money I'd given him over the years. I got a call from a detective one afternoon, asking if I'd be willing to come down to the station for a statement, even though I knew I'd done nothing wrong. My stomach was in knots. I couldn't shake the fear that somehow Brad's mess would drag me down with him. When I got to the station, I sat across from the detective in a tiny bare office. He asked me about the money I'd sent Brad, why I'd sent it, what it was for, if I'd known anything about what he was doing. I laid it all out for him. I thought I was helping him pay bills, take care of his kids, keep his family afloat. I had no idea he was using that money for illegal crap. If I'd known, I would have cut him off years ago. The detective nodded, taking notes. He didn't seem skeptical, which was a relief. Then he slid a stack of papers across the table, bank statements, transfers, receipts, all the evidence they'd gathered. "From what we can see, your story checks out," he said. "The funds you sent match the timeline of when Brad was claiming financial hardship. We also have records of him falsifying documents to make it look like he needed money for things like rent or daycare. It wasn't just that Brad had used me. It was that he'd gone out of his way to manipulate me." "So I'm in the clear?" I asked, still nervous. "You're not under investigation," the detective confirmed. "It's clear you were another victim of his schemes. We may need you to testify if this goes to trial, but you're not liable for anything." Hearing that was like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I wasn't going to be dragged down by Brad's mess after all. A couple of weeks later, the news broke that Brad had been arrested. Emma texted me when it happened. They finally got him. He's being held without bail. It was almost surreal. For years, Brad had been skating by, avoiding consequences, using everyone around him to clean up his messes. But now he was sitting in a jail cell, and there was no one left to bail him out. Well, almost no one. About a week after Brad's arrest, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer, but they left a voicemail. It was my mom. "Luke," she said, her voice shaky. "Please call us back. It's about Brad. He's in serious trouble, and we need your help." I rolled my eyes and deleted the voicemail. I should have known they'd come crawling back the moment things got tough. The next day, there was another voicemail, this time from my dad. "Son, I know you're upset with us, but Brad is still your brother. He made mistakes, sure, but he needs us now more than ever. Please call us back." I ignored that one too. Then came the texts. Mom was practically begging me to step in, saying things like, "Brad's not a bad person at heart. He just got mixed up with the wrong people. We can fix this if we work together." Dad's messages were more guilt-trippy. "Do you really want your brother to rot in jail? Family doesn't turn their back on each other." At first, I was furious. How could they still defend him after everything he'd done? After he'd lied, stolen, and dragged my name through the mud? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was just who they were. They'd always coddled Brad, always made excuses for him, always put his needs above everyone else's. This was just another chapter in the same sad story. So I sent one final text to the group chat they'd started bombarding me with. "I'm not helping Brad. He made his choices, and now he's facing the consequences. Don't contact me about this again." I didn't get a response. A few months later, Brad's case went to trial. I didn't follow it too closely, but Emma kept me updated. Apparently, he tried to plead ignorance, claiming he didn't know the goods were stolen, but the prosecution had mountains of evidence against him, bank records, text messages, even a couple of recorded phone calls. He didn't stand a chance. He was sentenced to several years in prison, with no possibility of parole for at least half that time. Emma told me he cried in court when the verdict was read, but I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd had every opportunity to turn his life around, and he'd wasted all of them. As for me, life moved on. Emma and the kids were doing well in their new house. She found a steady job and was finally starting to feel secure again. Every now and then she'd send me a text or a picture of the kids, just to let me know they were okay. My parents tried reaching out a few more times, but I ignored them. I'd made my decision, and I wasn't going to let them guilt me into reopening that door. They'd chosen their favorite, and now they were stuck with him. It's been over a year now since I last spoke to any of them, and honestly, I don't miss it. My life is quieter, calmer, and so much better without the constant drama. Cutting them off was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the best decision I ever made. Brad's still in prison. My parents are probably still stewing about how ungrateful I am. And I'm over here living my life. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that.